Hi everyone, hope you're doing well. So in this video, I'm going to cover about the UTCM, that is Unified Tenant Configuration Management. So which is the beta service at the moment from Microsoft, and how does it help admins, especially in exporting the snapshots of the desired state. Very exciting because admins today, they used to export the tenant settings manually through the XML format and then share it, uh, store it somewhere, and then when there is a massive change which is impacting the business, they used to then refer this XML and then restore it manually with the attributes within the same properties. But you never know which attribute is modified unless you exported the audit logs and then manually compare it. So in order to eliminate that task of comparison between the audit logs and your XML settings, so this UTCM will definitely help. So which does the has some capability called drift. So this drift is basically a deviation from your current state. So in this video, I'll walk through this, what is UTCM and how does it definitely make helpful for the admins. So with that, let's get started. And I've published this article in my medium.com blog. So I would suggest the people to go through this particular document or article and then let me know if there's any improvements. Because this is still in the beta, so I've covered much as I can. But definitely, if there's something to the improvement, if please comment on let me know if there's any changes required. Thank you. So with that, let's get started. So what does this snapshot for Azure AD and M365 workload look like? So just like let's take a step back and see this, how the M365 environment works across the organization, right? So M365 as a tenant is shared with the multiple teams, being the Exchange administrator, Teams administrators, Intune, Entra ID administrators, identity providers. So this is kind of a shared platform with the multiple teams making the changes consistently on this environment, being in the daily BAU operations or any changes for the engineering on architecture. As there's a lot of changes happening on this, so we as an admin today just export the XML file of the tenant settings, which is manual task today. And then sometimes we also take the snapshots. When I say snapshot, just a picture of the the screenshot of the admin settings, and then store it in these locations. And once there is any changes happen on the tenant which is impacting the business, we then compare this manually with the current audit logs and then understand what is the attribute I need to update it. So this UTCM eliminates the manual comparison which we do with the XML file and the audit logs. So this UTCM does it for you on the back end itself called drift. So whenever there's a drift or a deviation from the existing snapshot to the next backup, you'll see that what are the changes has been consistently happened, and it will also give you the values of the properties which has been updated or modified, so that the admins can quickly take actions instead of waiting for the audit logs and then the XML to compare. So that's the usage of this UTCM, and as it is still in the preview, so currently there's a limitation in terms of what resources being supported here. So I've covered this in my article as well. So currently it is supported for the very basic parts of the Entra ID, Exchange Administrator, Intune, Teams, and whatnot. You also have got more on the Entra ID. Specifically, we've got conditional access policy settings, Intune settings. So let's walk through a couple of them. And in this video, I'll be covering the live of how you can take the configuration settings of conditional access policy, which I would like to work on. So in this video, I'll cover the conditional access policy as one of the resources which I wanted to monitor, because that is one of the platform which is heavily not updated, but updating anything could go wrong if there is no proper impact analysis being done. So I wanted to understand what properties was modified before and after this snapshot is taken, right? So, and then understand what values I have to revert it back to make this work as expected, to bring the business back online. So there are three important terms when you're working with the UTCM. So the first one is a snapshots, so which is the current desired state of your configuration settings. And then second one is the configuration monitor, so where you hook up the your snapshots into the configuration monitor, or basically a space where you wanted to view them. So within this configuration monitor, that is where everything, all the properties, everything will be elaborated. And then if there is any modifications or a drift, so that's our third topic. So then if there's any deviations, that will be updated under the drift attribute, which show us these are the modified attributes in the last I mean in the existing snapshot to the now till now. So every monitor configuration monitor you do it, so for each resources you can go, or you can club many resources into one configuration monitor. It's up to the people how they wanted to take a snapshot and then hook up to the configuration monitor. But there is certain limitations about how many configuration monitor you can have in the tenant, and how many resources per monitor is worth, right? There's some limitation, like around 800 snapshots you can 800 resources can be monitored within one single tenant per day. So with that, let's understand the what is UTCM and how does it definitely adds value to the admins. Yeah. So this unified tenant configuration management is a API. So when I say API, there's an exclusive service principal which is under preview today. You need to register that in your tenant using the there's a graph commands. I'll walk through about how you can connect to this MG graph, and then basically stamp this service principal into your tenant. So these are the list of resources which I was telling about. You can monitor. So these are supported resources, right? Workloads, sorry. These are the supported workloads which you can monitor. Underneath of this defender, underneath of this Entra, you get a lot of resources. So if you wanted to monitor just a specific resources within Entra or an exchange online, ensure that those are well defined in your snapshot, because there is a schema, right? For everything you got a schema for these resources. So make sure that resources schema is updated correctly, so that the snapshot understands what is the resources it has to monitor, and you won't end up in the problem with the snapshot showing us no results after you take up the backup. So the first step is to install the module Microsoft.graph authentication. These two are the commands which you basically would have been already there in your PowerShell modules. If not, I would suggest you to run these two commands first and install the graph authentications and the graph applications modules. Post which you will connect with the MG graph scopes with application.readWrite all, and then you need to authenticate on the web browser to give the consent to with the application of read write for the as a delegated model to register this application. So before you register this service principal, ensure you are an application administrator in the Entra or the global administrator. So these are the two roles which is currently supported to register this application. So since I've already registered it, you'll probably see that it might throw up an error saying that it's already registered or there's a conflict. So let's give it a try. So you can see that log on to the computer with an account that has administrator rights to install it. So let's log in with administrator, then try it again. Then you can see that the service principal cannot be created or updated or restored because the service principal name is already in use, right? Because I already started the working on this for this demo purpose, so I've already installed that. Now, can you delete this? Yes, you can unregister the service principal and then re-register if there is any issues. So once this particular command is run, you need to assign the two roles for this. So that is a policy.readAll and then the user.readWrite permissions, so which is also listed in my article. So you'll assign this user.readWrite permission, policy.read all permissions, and you'll run this set of commands to assign the roles. So once that is done, you can probably view this through the PowerShell itself of, okay, this the roles are successfully assigned to it, or you can go to the portal.azure.com and look for the unified tenant configuration management service that is already registered. So if you're on the portal.azure.com, so you can come to the search and search with the application ID of that particular service principal. Once it is loaded, so you can see there's a unified tenant configuration management service principal here, right? And then you can look for the permissions, which is the same as the roles which you have assigned through the PowerShell. So you get user.read write and policy.read all. So this service principal runs independent to monitor our snapshots, helping you into the understand there's a drift and everything. But how does this service principle can work without you giving the consent, right? So where does it run? So for that, you need to register one more application in your portal, and then add certain roles like directory services. Because you want to take a backup for conditional access policy, you can assign the exclusive roles. And similarly go for the exchange you wanted to monitor, then you wanted to add the additional permissions to that particular registered application. So that Azure AD application, when in combination with this UTCM, will help us in capturing the snapshot, monitoring the service, and then the changes. Yeah. So restoration is not part of the topic today, because restoration is still not open up from the Microsoft. How do we restore it? Because in beta itself, I've seen that there's a lot of changes coming up in terms of being a commands or being the number of services that's been eliminated as well. So once you are conformed with the applications that is being registered, and you can start registering the application and assign these particular roles. Let me zoom it. So in this particular demo, I've created the snapshot dot underscore enter. So that is my application, and I've assigned these roles. So for configuration monitoring and configuration monitoring dot read write. So these are the two monitoring API services. And then since I want to give the capability to take the backup, to take the backup of my conditional access policy, which is part of the policy.read. So I have assigned the policy.read all. And if I wanted to take the users management, groups management, then I have to go for the directory.read permissions and user.read write for any monitoring for the specific purpose, because this application has to understand the who is assigned in user, right? Like an admin, for example, if admin has made a change, so user.read write will capture those informations for us. So this particular demo have captured everything through the PowerShell. So I'm not using much of the mggraph command, but rather I went through the HTTPS method to capture the UTCM service principles, snapshots, and everything. So I have gone very detailed. So you can take the first snippet here to capture the bearer token. You can use the tenant ID, client ID, and client secret. So I'll just walk through that again. So I have this tenant ID, client ID, and client secret and the scope. So I'm going to rotate this client secret anyway, so it's just for the demo purpose here, and my dev tenant too. So once the token response is obtained, so you can just cross check the bearer token, which should be in the JWT format. So this confirms the your tenant ID is well registered. This confirms that your ready application is successfully registered and the secret and client ID are working as expected. So if you're unsure about whether the roles or no, assigned roles are actually showing up or not on this particular application, you can use this JW2 token and go to the web browser for jw2.io, paste this and understand the roles of each. For this Barrett token. So once you have the token in place, so what's next, right? So it's a straightforward. So we have to just go ahead and create a snapshot for what you wanted to monitor. So this particular command here, which is the small snippet, I wanted to monitor the conditional access. So the display name, make sure the format of this display name is as expected, because you this is a schema. So I'll repeat again, this is a schema which you need to or a syntax which you need to follow. And that there's a additional articles or the supported articles in this blog, so where you can walk through you can just watch about what sort of keywords you need to use for the display name descriptions or monitoring any other services like IMAP, POP, right? So these are basically CAS mailbox properties. So there's definitely a definite different resources properties will come. So you need to make sure that the format is correct. So conditional access monitors, so this is part of the Microsoft Entra conditional access policy. This is the exact way it should look, and there is a list of resources schemas as well, so which I've put in my in the continuation of this article. So once you define this body parameter, you can run the web request to basically create a snapshot. I've already done this for you, so let me just go through it. So I have this particular conditional access policy baseline, critical CA policies, which I wanted to monitor as a description. And then I'm using the same beret token to call it. So this is what you need to be careful, like create snapshot, CREATE, and then uppercase S. So all this are listed in your article of the Microsoft default one. So make sure you ensure that you know these things are taken care. If not, it will consume more time to debug all this. So since I've already created this, so it will show me a conflict of the snapshot. So you can see there's a conflict because this is already created. So since it's a post command, it's trying to register this snapshot. So since I've already created, let me just run the get command for the same and show you that this is already created successfully. So this is the get command of the same request of a snapshot ID. So you can see that the configuration snapshot jobs. So whenever you create a snapshot, it creates under the snapshot jobs, and that has a unique ID for each snapshot that is taken. So I'll just quickly run this bit. Let me clear the screen one more time and rerun for you people. So you can see that the status is succeeded. The resources is very well showing up of what needs to be monitored. And you have also see that the created date and the completion date of this one. And the resource location is another very important because this is what your monitor ID will be, right? So this is the snapshot ID and this is the different configuration monitor job ID. So these are two different cases here, right? So we need to be very careful of what is used where. I'm sure once this UTCM stabilizes, people will you'll get more features in running these commands easily. It will be more simple and logical as well when what you're doing next from the previous steps. So since I have those locations captured, so you can again understand whether these display name description resources which I provided is actually looking as expected. So I'll just quickly run this particular command and show you and everything is captured in my article, so I'm just copy pasting from there itself. This gives the same output as a previous one. So what we're trying to do is the dollar snapshot location is what we captured it, and then out of which we wanted to take this particular ID of snapshot, and you see sir it returns that value, and then we are using that as a snapshot ID here. So if this is not working, I would suggest that the snapshot ID is wrong here, right? Because it is not the snapshot ID, it's a resource ID. Or sorry, it's not a resource ID, it is the configuration monitor ID. So where is the resource ID? Which snapshot ID I need to use then, right? So you can go back to the same command. So I'll just write this as dollar. So I'll just go for the previous command. I had a dollar snapshots job value. Yeah. So this particular command here will capture another unique ID. So you can see here. So this command gives me the another different unique ID. So this is actually a snapshot ID. So once you have a snapshot created and verified with this display name that the snapshot job is successfully created, you can just run this command and get the output. And it is verified. Then you can go for the hooking up this to the configuration monitor. So now you have to create the configuration monitor for this. So to create the configuration monitor, I have used the body parameters exactly the same parameter which as it is given for the creation of snapshot ID. So ensure it is matched, right? So conditional access monitor, critical CA policies, and if you wanted to monitor more than one resources within the same snapshot, then where do you update them is in the resources bag. So you can see it is the array. So you can just add a new tab, a new line, just add what is the different another resources you wanted to. For example, I wanted to have the Microsoft dot exchange. Sorry, the transport rule. So if I wanted to monitor the exchange transport rule exclusively, so I can just go ahead and save this and ensure that those values are actually passed in the you know in the monitor as well. So this is my baseline. I'm just giving it, and the description is the baseline for conditional access. So and there is a limit for the character as well, like the display name can have the minimum character length is 8 and the maximum is 32. So make sure the length is updated correctly. If not, it just gives you the 400 bad request. So once I created the body parameter for the creating the configuration monitors, this is the job or the invoke arrest method I'm using to the graph command to register this configuration monitor. So since already created, again I'll get this conflict again, but let me try it one more time. All right, that's fine. It says it's a conflict, but there is the monitor job which is already created. So you can see the mode is monitor only, and it's currently active and run as UTCM service principal. So let's say, for example, you have created the snapshot jobs and then a link to this configuration monitor, and for some reason the snapshots are not being captured or the deviations is not captured. So this particular command help us to identify if the UTCM service is actually running or not, right? And then you can go back to the registration portal and then verify that service principal is up and running. Yeah, so we got snapshots, we got configuration monitor created, and so this is one more important bit. So monitor runs frequency is 6 hours. So if you create a snapshot now and then you will monitor the change after 6 hours for the first time, yeah, and then it is every 6 hours the job will be run. So per day it runs 4 times. So that is why there's a limitation about how many resources you can monitor per day and how many snapshots you can create per tenant. So which I'll walk through later on in this article as well. At the end of this session, I'll give you the bonus of the PowerShell command, which you can use, which helped me out to fix the codes where I went wrong. So once the monitor job is created, now the time is to identify if there's any drift. So this particular monitor job is created over yesterday. So that is, you can see here the 7th where I did, and unfortunately I was not able to upload the video because of issues issues I ended up with my log and the phone. So that's where it stretched me to Sunday to complete my testing and then redo this vlog. Well, so let's go to this. So what I'm doing it again is the same process. So I'll just run the last snippet here. To identify if there is any drift. So you can see there is no drift in the last count. So there was no changes being made. So you can see the last inspection time, right? There is no changes. So you can keep making the changes and then validate this again. So let's go to the application portal, conditional access policy. Well. Now, how do you know this conditional access policy is actually being monitored, right? So what you can do is you can open the configuration results and configuration monitors. So there are the two bits here. So you can run the configuration monitors, right? So which will tell how many conditional access policies are there, right? When during the snapshot was taken. Let me expand it. So let me expand it. Select type and expand. And the attributes or the parameter name is resources. Wow, it got all the 5 resources, or sorry, all the 5 conditional access policies, which I have currently in my test tenant, and this is exactly what I have today. So let me come back to this portal and then verify it again. So I'll go to the policies. Wow, it's the same thing. So since it is able to capture my desired state now, so let's modify the value of this particular one. So let me make this as, this is a test policy Malaysia. So what should, it is as to monitor the display name. Now my display name has been changed from the rename to Malaysia, and I'm saving this, and the job runs in next 6 hours. So one after the 6 hours, you can go to this particular snippet, monitor, verify, and then understand if that is actually showing up in the drift. So currently the drift count is 0, and the run initial date time was 6 o'clock my time. Sorry, it is UTC. So 6 UTC, probably I have to wait for 12 UTC, which is another 3 hours from now. So that's fine, but okay. So this is how it is. So once you monitor it, and then this value you have it, you just expand this value, and you'll see the drift, what has happened. Okay. Yeah, so this basically gives us the very clear picture about the properties which has been modified, and then fix it immediately. It's not huge. And Microsoft do has some limitations. For example, if you modify this configuration monitor or a snapshot name, it will delete the earlier snapshots immediately or automatically. So make sure the display names or the descriptions which you provide for snapshots are not altered unless you're sure about losing the previous backups. So this is a preview. So as we get into the the working model, I'll probably cover this in my vlog if I get an opportunity, if this is really coming to the existence, and then we can rely on this for the backup purposes and restore the critical settings. See you all in the next video. Please support me with your just one like and one subscription. Thank you.